Hello, my name is Creostix, and welcome back to Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. And following from exactly where we left off last time around, February 25, 9:47 a.m., District Court Defendant Lobby Number 2. This is the defendant lobby, alright, but there's no defendant. I've been trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? And where's Emma, for that matter? It almost seems as if something's been happening behind the scenes. Hi, Edgeworth. Knowing you, you've already figured it out. Who the owner of the 7777777 ID number is, that is. Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Looks like I'm not the only one who figured it out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for doubt regarding this ID record. If that number does belong to whom you suspect, then no doubt will remain. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. True, not yet. In any event, once all doubt has been removed from that list, I can call for a ruling. 5 minutes, Wright, and Chief Prosecutor Skye will be found guilty. But she didn't do it. I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here, to hear what you have to say. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. The truth. Everything goes back to the SL9 incident. Don't be stupid, today's the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. See you in court, right? It'll be awesome! This is it. If I'm ever going to find out what Chief Gant has on her, it's now. February 25th, 10 a.m. District Court Courtroom Number 9. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Normally this is when the prosecution puts forth its opening statement. But before that, the police chief has a proposal to make. Chief Gant. Hi. Morning, folks. How's everyone doing? Hey, Aji, been back to the pool yet? No, I've been drowning enough as it is in my work. Oh, that's a good one. Don't think I can top that. If you don't mind me asking, Chief, what exactly is this proposal of yours? Always with the dramatic pauses. Lana, that is to say, the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court. She wants to do what? Having heard what she intends to say, I feel she should be granted her request. In the end, it should have saved everyone a lot of time and trouble. Oh, goody! It's not like she's gonna just, like, confess all over again and... Oh, boy. What's this all about, defendant? I'd just like to make one simple request and I'll be finished. Well then, what's your request? Your Honor, I'd like you to put an immediate end to this trial. I confess to all charges against me. On February 21st of this year, I murdered Detective Bruce Goodman in the underground parking lot of the prosecutor's office. No, Lana. Objection! You can't. Your Honor, the defendant's claim does not change the defense's plea. In that case, Mr. Wright, I no longer require your services. But Lana... Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. The prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proven its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. I would like you to render your verdict now, if you please. Well, the defendant certainly has the right to self-representation. Her request is legally valid, although this is an unprecedented situation. Indeed, it appears there's no further need to continue this trial, even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise. This can't be happening. It appears the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant... Objection! One moment, Your Honor. Mr. Edgeworth. The prosecution has not yet proven the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Any ruling at this stage would certainly be premature. Come now, Worthy. I understand that this is a difficult time for you, but why don't you just be a good little boy and keep your mouth shut, I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gant. What? Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes. Sorry, but I'm no longer the naive little boy you would have me be. With the sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me some kind of deal was struck behind the scenes. Some kind of deal, Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy. I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness. Oh, to whom? As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Miss Emma Skye. I request the court hears her testimony. Hold it! Mr. Edgeworth, I am exercising my right to self-representation. I don't think we need to continue. I don't care what you think, Miss Skye. The exposure of truth sometimes results in tragedy. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it. Wise words. Very well, the court shall grant the prosecution's request. That's okay with you, right, Chief Gant? Worthy, you'll live to regret this. Mark my words. Miss Emma Skye, please take the stand. Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins. Question. If Lana already forfeited the defense as in I no longer work for her, why am I still here? It's like no one's gonna just address that. Now then, witness, please state your name and occupation. My name is Emma Skye. My occupation, I'm Lana's little sister and I want to be a scientific investigator. 2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer Joe Dark of the Joe Dark killings. Is this correct? Yes. I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though. I'm sorry. But I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time. Mr. Edgeworth, please remember this trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that relevant? Yes, it most certainly is. Well, okay then. He sure gave in fast. Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago. The trip to yesteryear has finally begun. It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial. 2 years ago. I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me, but I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest. I have a number of questions about that entire thing, but let's just, point by point. It's a good thing you weren't harmed. I passed out. I don't remember much. That's understandable. However, please tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does this testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder? That will soon become apparent, Your Honor. You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence. Very well, the defense may begin its cross-examination. Okie dokie, let's start pressing. Buttons. Hold it! 2 years ago, the defendant was a detective at the police department, correct? Yes, she was second in command under then Deputy Chief of Police Gant. My sister, she was the best detective ever. Yes, I remember. Deputy Chief Gant and Miss Skye used to be quite the pair. I believe they shared the same office. That's right. I'd always sit at my sister's desk. and dream about playing that organ. I wanted to play it that day too. The police department and the prosecutor's office held a ceremony that day. Lana promised to take me to dinner after she finished her work. A man came running in and took me hostage. Hold it! A man? Yes, Joe Dark. He was a serial killer. Joe Dark was brought in for questioning on the day of that ceremony. We were desperate to get anything on him that would lead to an arrest. When he saw his chance, he fled the room, right? Upon fleeing the room, Dark proceeded to take the elevator. He must have been in a panic because the elevator was going up. Then he ran into Skye and Gant's office. There was a lot of noise coming from outside, so I opened up the door to have a look. That's when I saw him. Neil Marshall rescued me. Hold it! What was the prosecutor doing there? That day there were two people present during Dark's questioning. Deputy Chief Damon Gant and Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Almost forgot about Gant. Neil Marshall had just received the King of Prosecutors Award. Young and dedicated, he went straight to the questioning room after the ceremony. I assumed that would also be why he was the first to run after Dark. When Dark grabbed me, I thought I was as good as dead. And that's when Prosecutor Marshall came running in. I don't clearly remember what happened then, but I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. Hold it! Can you tell us about that? Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. Just then, the lights went out. The lights? It was just about this time of year. There was a terrible storm going on, and lightning struck nearby. So the electricity went out. Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right? Right, but just then lightning flashed again outside. That sudden flash left an unforgettable image of the scene in my mind. I see. I told the detective about what I saw then. The detective? Yes, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case. Detective Bruce Goodman, the victim. Go for it. So you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago? Yes, that's what's so scary about this trial. And you told Detective Goodman about what you saw? Yes, but at the time, the words just wouldn't come out. That's why I drew a picture. A picture? Yes, I think she mentioned that before. Well, Mr. Wright, have you heard enough? I can ask about it. This picture that witness drew, I believe it has a very important meaning. Objection! But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture. Witness, would you mind if we added this statement to your testimony? Yes, Your Honor. I mean, there's two things here. Number one, that is the picture I have behind that one thing, and the stabbing of the chest, I'm pretty sure I saw like a memory picture of it being in the back, and I should have the autopsy report here. Stabbed in the back. So there's two contradictions in this. They should both work, I think, but I don't know. Objection! Mr. Edgeworth. That little girl put all her heart into drawing that picture. And yet you would insist on denying its existence. Huh? Hey, I'm not the bad guy. All I'm saying is that as the prosecutor for that case, I wasn't handed such a picture. That may well be. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold, this is the evidence list for the SL9 incident. Please turn it over, Your Honor. Turn it over? Turn it... Ah! What's this? Yes, what is that? Hey, that's it. That's the picture I drew. Indeed, two men appear to be wrestling here. Objection! What's the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list? I just happened to find it at the McDonald's. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's all good. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all fine. Me? Only the prosecutor in charge should have access to that list. Huh? These lists. They're different from each other. What? It would appear, Mr. Edgeworth, that the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. I sent it obvious I faked it. Yes, that sounds about right. These two lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here where they were torn apart from each other. So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, it's quite obvious what happened. 2 years ago, only half of the evidence in that case even reached you. What? What? Order, order. But Miss Skye, why did you draw your picture on the back of such an important list? Because that's what Detective Goodman handed me in the questioning room, Your Honor. Wait a minute. If this list was torn in half, then that means... Your Honor, are you alright, Mr. Wright? Your eyes are bulging from your head. If the evidence list was torn in half, then there might be more of the drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list. Surely he would have noticed, but let's just go, like, Edgeworth is, like, meticulous, like, and then he just, like, wouldn't turn around a bit. But maybe he didn't. Yes, that's quite conceivable, Mr. Edgeworth. It's possible. Let's see. Well, I mean, he held the picture. He held the eye. Sorry, like the animation has him holding a piece of paper, but behind it was nothing because it wasn't because they didn't think of having that as the actual item he's holding. Did you find ice cream in there? I like it too. Is something wrong? Do you even have to ask? Sorry, Your Honor. There is indeed something drawn on the back of my list. It's that thing. That's that thing. That thing that was dancing in the evidence room. Clearly this act of vandalism is the work of a certain chief of detectives. I guess he was out of scrap paper. Evidence list restored and updated in the court record. For the sake of argument, just let's see what the full thing looks like. Just so we can, like... Okay. Right. Cool. Very well, witness. Will you please testify about this picture you drew 2 years ago? Huh? Oh, yes, sir, Your Honor. What's wrong with Emma? She seemed to be thinking about something when she was looking at the picture. Emma's picture. Here we go. This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. The flash of lightning was so bright all I could see were shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. Interesting. To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image in your mind. Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw. Well, I don't see any contradictions here. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder Prosecutor Neil Marshall. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Again, I feel like I just relieved of being the defense by my, like, client. She very clearly said that she no longer needs my services. But we're just gonna, like, let that slide. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's all good. Emma's picture. Okay. I have a feeling I need to press on the stuff because I didn't see an immediate... Let's press this one first. I'm kind of curious. Hold it. Sorry for asking so many times, but are you sure you drew exactly what you saw? Of course, this is the exact scene. Wasn't influenced in any way from your talks with the detectives. Objection! Are you insinuating we somehow manipulated her memory, Mr. Wright? Well, not you. You're not a detective. The detectives. No, of course not. I'd better watch out or he might find some way to cut my salary. I drew this picture before I heard anything from the detectives, so I don't think anyone's story would have influenced me. Mr. Wright, is there something that's bothering you about this picture? Huh? Oh, well... That's strange. She claims this is exactly the scene that was imprinted in her mind, and yet, there's clearly a contradiction here. Why? Okay, give us a moment. Let's just... Name, deceased, date and time of death, cause of death, single stab wound, piercing heart and lung. Died from blood loss in under 10 minutes. Weapon found in wound was missing tip. Huh. That's interesting. Like, at some point the shape of the badger thing is gonna come up, because it is a problem, because the badger wasn't invented back then, but... Is that the answer? Probably. I can try that, but I want to save the game first, because it's a bit of a long shot. Because again, one wouldn't know if the game, like, would think of me figuring that out at this point yet. Nope, that's not right. Okie dokie, and back. Well, I mean, if Phoenix says there's a contradiction, then the other one must maybe be then the autopsy report. Okay. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture of the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction. What? But I still remember it like it was yesterday. Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. What part of this picture contradicts the autopsy report? Crap. Well... So the wound was supposed to be in the back, but that would... Like, it could go down to the back. That's not out of the question. And I no longer can check the court record either. Again, sometimes the leaps of logic in the first 3 games are not quite up to par. Unless I'm seriously missing a point here. But I'm gonna make a wild guess at this and just see what happens. The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife in the man is holding. Okay. The thing is, the picture is so unfocused that I wouldn't be like expecting it to like the picture is so vague that there's no reason for me to basically suspect that that wouldn't just be like he's holding a thing and that's just what it is. Like that's not the kind of picture you like take details from. It's gonna like yeah, like they're not wrong, but it's not the kind of picture to like get stuck in details of like more than a extremely vague thing shape. There's like I don't know. Like I'm sure. Even if I don't have to look closer to see that, Mr. Wright. Even I don't have to look closer to see that, Mr. Wright. But Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon? Its tip is broken too. If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body. It was the conclusive piece of evidence that proved that Joe Dark was the murderer. I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma. Objection! And where, pray tell, could you possibly see a problem? It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken. Like, the logic itself is sound, but it's a picture that one wouldn't glean details of that nature from. It's like, this blob of a dude hit this blob of a dude with this blob. It's like, what's the meaning of this? Objection. Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand. Objection. Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. Well, it's simple. You have to make everything up. Yes, that is... In the first 3 Ace Attorney games, sometimes that is actually kind of the case every once in a while. Like, I love these games, but I still say it when I see that something isn't quite... It's not quite what, you know... If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there. That's right. But what does this mean? Objection! The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory... The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken. Objection! That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time. Actually, I just skipped to that part, so that actually wasn't what happened, but sure. But she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency. Objection! Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already? About a little something called falsified evidence. You're treading on thin ice, right? All I'm saying is that this broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. No. Order, order, order. Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted? Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the King of Prosecutors Award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Gant. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in the story there is a lie. I'm not lying. The man really was holding up a broken knife. If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must be another broken knife. Not necessarily, no. Because, we do know that the tip of the knife does fit down to the fiber, at least according to Gumshoe, to the broken knife. So the tip itself is from the knife. The thing is, at least Marshall back then in like a couple of days ago said that the knife wounds, like the shape was inconsistent with the broken knife. Ergo, the explanation that sort of like the conclusion I reached from that is that the actual stab wound was made with a different knife, and then the broken knife broke off in some other manner during the fight, right? And then after the fact, the tip could have been planted inside the body. So, well, if it's forged, of course, it has the fake weapons. Well, I mean, it is true that if we assume every piece of evidence to be a lie, then one can not trust anything. But if we only assume that there must be another broken knife, it's not necessarily the case. Is the point? What are the chances of there being two broken knives? Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's? Could there have been one? Oh, an interesting choice, because... Okay, so... Because for the reason I explained, it's not necessarily a different broken knife. As long as the stab wound was made with something, and then the tip of this knife was just planted in the body, that fits just nicely. As a falsified evidence, but still. So... broken knives don't just grow on trees. There's no way there was another one. Well, Mr. Wright, Your Honor, I believe the witness must be mistaken. I knew it. You really don't believe me. That's not the point. I believe you saw a broken knife. That's a different point. That flash of lightning burned an unforgettable image in her mind. One that's been torturing her ever since. There's no way Emma could be mistaken. If the witness is this adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by a simple observational error. Mr. Wright. In that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife. I assume then that you have some information about this other broken... No, if you... Again, that's not necessarily necessary. If so, please feel free to enlighten us. The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Take a look at this. Here's the real murder weapon. Oh! It's this one. Because there's a knife. Oh, and it's broken too. Yep, there is a different broken knife. That's true. That's true. There was a different broken knife as well. Yeah. My bad. But I still maintain that the end fragment must have been planted if it fits the other broken. So both the things were true. Well, if you think in real life logic and not in Ace Attorney logic, yeah, and the award was changed 2 years ago. That's also true. Yeah, the award was changed by Gant. Ergo, the knife is probably in Gant's possession somewhere or thrown away or whatever. So yeah, there is that. Oh, and yeah, so I would say it's this one. Take that. The answer lies in the past, 2 years in the past, right here in this picture. This is a picture of the award ceremony. Ah! What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? It's the broken murder weapon. Notice the award prosecutor Marshall is holding. That's a broken knife. As we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood from this award. Order, order, order. Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and a knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out this knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. Objection! But that can't be. Why? And why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors award knife was the murder weapon, then the murderer and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean, this man raising a knife would have been Neil Marshall. Yeah, I have no idea of how, like, strongly it was on there. Maybe it was just built flimsily, I don't know. But the prosecutor was the one who actually died. That's true. What's going on here? It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions. Hold it! Wait, I remember now. I remember everything. Witness. Mr. Edgeworth. What is it? Could you show me your evidence list again, please? His list? The one with the pictures scribbled on the back. I knew it. This picture. I'm the one who drew it. What? You drew that? That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. All this time I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part away deep inside me. Yes, it's a very scary shape of like a jester's hat. That's the part you want to forget then. I mean, the important part is she remembered. So yes, perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness's testimony. Oh, we were in a testimony still. I actually forgot. Would you please tell us what you've recalled, Miss Skye? Yes, Your Honor. First the knife mix-up, and now the blue badger. This should be interesting. Emma's recollection. When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed toward both of them. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. Just then there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow. This is certainly most unusual. Objection! Try impossible. The chief of detectives hadn't even designed him until... You mean designed him until this year. There's a couple of spelling errors in the game. Not many, but a couple. That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago. Yes, well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination. Hold it! Stop! Please, don't pursue this any further. Hi, Lana. What's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair. But you can't do this. I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you just leave it at that? Chief Prosecutor Skye. We've already come this far. It's too late to turn back. Silence! The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant. It seems we're finally getting to the core of the matter. It would be quite something indeed if the Blue Badger was somehow the killer. That's for sure. Okay, let's start pressing on the stuff. Hold it. When you say that man, I assume you refer to Joe Dark. Yes, at least I think it was him. You think? All I could really see were shadows. The power outage that immediately preceded the incident is also documented in the prosecutor's office reports. So then you... I panicked and rushed toward both of them. Hold it! Why would you do something so dangerous? What else could I have done? He was about to stab Mr. Marshall. She seems convinced that Dark was the one holding the knife. But as we've just theorized, Mr. Marshall was the one holding the knife. Well, I didn't know that at the time. When that Dark guy knocked me down, all I could think was, I've got to help the other person. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. Hold it! What do you mean, you think? It all happened so fast, and I was in shock. I don't remember everything clearly. What I did, it's all kind of a blur. Miss Skye was almost killed before she was witness to a murder about to take place. With so much happening in a matter of seconds, a little disorientation is only natural. I saw the man about to stab the other person, who I thought was Mr. Marshall. I knew I had to stop the man with the knife. What you did was very brave, young girl. So then what happened next? Just then there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. Hold it! Are you sure about this? Of course, see? I even drew a picture of him here. But it was the chief of detectives who thought up this hideous beast. And that was just this year. The blue badger didn't exist 2 years ago. This is all quite verifiable. I know it sounds strange. I was surprised too when I saw him at the police department. I had this nagging feeling that I'd seen him before somewhere. Now I finally remember. Oh brother, just when you thought that thing had caused enough commotion. Tell us, where in the room did you see him dancing? He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow. Hold it! His shadow? So you mean you didn't actually see his face with its winning smile and all? That's right, but I still remember it. He had 3 creepy horns. Objection! This is pointless. That thing couldn't have possibly existed 2 years ago. The witness must be mistaken. Objection! That may well be. But what's important is what caused her to think she saw what she did. Oh, and I suppose you have an explanation. So then, by all means, please tell us what the shadow really was. What was it Emma saw when that lightning flashed? Who is this blue badger really? I just might have an idea. Because, let's just think things through here. So, the urn was in the room in the background there. And it does have, a shadowy resemblance to the notion there. So that's probably the answer. That was flying or something, so I might have an idea, yes. The blue badger hadn't even been dreamt up when Emma drew this picture. Yet she's certain she saw its shadow. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the defense's belief that on that fateful day 2 years ago, there indeed was something that looked similar to the blue badger, something that is now sitting in this very room. Mr. Wright! In this room? Very well, Mr. Wright. What is it that the witness saw in that instant? Please show us this mysterious blue badger look-alike. There we go. Take that! The mysterious blue badger was in fact this. But that's... what exactly is that? I believe it's some sort of jar. But Mr. Wright, that doesn't look anything like the blue badger. Indeed it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. However, what if we were to change our viewpoint? Our viewpoint? I've got to show them the correct angle to look at this from. Okie dokie. So, give us a minute. Oh, this is difficult. Oh, God. Like something like that. That's the best I can imagine. Yeah, that's my answer. Well, Is this a miracle or what? No one can possibly deny this jar's resemblance to the blue badger. No. It can't be. Why can't it be? It's not that bad, Edgeworth. Calm down. Order, order. The defense has proven its claim. The mysterious blue badger witnessed on the day of the crime was actually this. Objection! Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point? What do you mean? So that badger thing was actually just a jar. That doesn't change anything. Objection! I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything. Indeed. Very well then. So back to the real world, Emma would now charge against die inventor of him because it was her idea. Okie dokie. What's different now that we know the witness saw this jar? Good question. Let's think this through here. So the location, I think, should... She says she saw the shadow of the thing. Whereas the jar was already on the quote-unquote correct side of the room. So would she actually have been in the other side of the entire office? Because if you just saw the shadow and judging from the angle of the jar would have been flying or something, maybe. So therefore the location would be the other side of the office because that's where the shadow would go. Whereas if she was in the place we were assuming in the first place, then she would just like see the jar as is. So sure. Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar. That's a bit of a leap of logic, but I'll try to go with it. At a very specific angle, I might add, Mr. Wright. Yes, well, knowing this, where could she have seen this jar? Where? The location of the jar is shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. It's on a shelf in the office of Damon Gant. Objection! But the body was found lying near Lana Skye's desk. The witness testified so herself. Objection! Yes, and it's these two facts that reveal what actually transpired. You see, the struggle between Dark and Marshall did not take place in Lana Skye's office. It happened on the other side of the room in Chief Gant's office. Objection! Are you implying the murderer moved the victim's body from Damon Gant's office to Lana Skye's office? Yes. Why would he do that? There's no reason. Exactly. If there wasn't a reason, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble. The only logical conclusion is that there was a reason. Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright? I finally figured it out. Have we? So this is why Lana tried to stop the trial. It's too late to quit now, though. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said she knocked away the man who was holding up the knife. In the next instant, the jar was hit and flew through the air. Now tell me, what could have sent the jar flying? That would have to have been the impact the man made when he was knocked into the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this picture once more. If the man was knocked in the direction of the shelf the jar was sitting on, What would he have hit? Ah! The suit of armor holding a very sharp and dangerous looking sword. Yes. And since the man who was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, he would have had to have been Neil Marshall, wielding the King of Prosecutors trophy. No, Mr. Wright, you can't be thinking. Yes. There is another possibility of what actually transpired in that room. Another possibility. Of course the perpetrator would have had no idea, but nevertheless. I don't know if I can go through with this. Mr. Wright, what's the matter? If events took place as the defense theorizes, then the outcome is obvious. In that moment, assuming the man Emma Skye knocked away was actually Prosecutor Neil Marshall, oh dear. You mean Mr. Marshall died because of me? No! Thud. Well, that was... I never imagined her testimony would lead to this. So it was a witness who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented. Objection! What are you saying? I'm sorry, Miss Skye, but given the circumstances, Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How can you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her? Imagine that coming from you. If you recall, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago. The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from finding out about what Emma did, wasn't it? I assure you, Mr. Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall? Evidence? I'm willing to bet you don't. Yes, it certainly would be difficult to prove this with evidence. If we don't have evidence, then we'll have to rely on testimony. I'm afraid that won't work in this case. Both parties involved in the incident are dead. You certainly can't get dead people to testify. This has all been a wild goose chase from the beginning. Touché, Miss Skye. Of course, that only leaves us with one possibility. You mean there's still another possibility? What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? I mean the possibility that the victim has left us a message. For better or for worse, Mr. Marshall did not die instantly. He may have left behind the name of the person who took his life, in one manner or another. That's impossible. Well, Mr. Wright, this is the only possibility left to you. A message from the deceased. Does such a message exist? I've got to think back to the court record. The real murderer's name that the victim may have left behind. So here's the thing. Yes, I mean, we do know a spirit medium. We could just go, hey Maya, could you like come down from the mountains and have a little word with the, you know, because like we do know spirit mediums. So unfortunately, Maya is in wherever, like probably in Kurian village to learn the spirit medium stuff and stuff. But an interesting notion again. Edgeworth just like pulls an idea. Well, maybe there's a message somewhere. Interesting theory, Edgeworth. Phoenix, can you prove that there was a message? Yeah, Edgeworth was the one who brought the idea to life. Why are you asking me? It's like probably at a burger shop eating. That is probably true. She does like her burgers though. But yes, because the thing with it's again, it's a bit of a leap, but the line of blood here is the part that was the broken piece, and the rest are like not. The rest are splotches. So the theory would then be that we could luminol out the entire thing, and I would have loved to do that before, but the game didn't let me. So that's probably what it is. So yeah. This message from the deceased is already in our possession. Mr. Wright, will you stop at nothing to prove my sister a murderer? I'm going for the truth, and it'll be fine, I promise. Do not be mistaken, Miss Skye. Our purpose is to not accuse Emma of any crime. There is only one thing we seek. The truth. Yes, exactly. Edgeworth knows what's up, no matter how painful it may be. Now then, Mr. Wright, please show us the piece of evidence that conveys a message from the deceased. That's gonna be the jar. Again. There. Take jar. This is the message left by the deceased. This is that blue badger from before, right? No, the jar from before. Oh, is he going to just speak the killer's name? If that thing could, I'm sure it would. Looks like everyone's forgotten this is just a jar. A message was left here on the surface of this jar. What do you mean? If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on this jar. It looks like someone wiped the blood away. Yes, but notice. For some reason, the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away. Yes, there is a line here, drawn in blood. So what you're saying is these dots were once lines. Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used the few precious moments left to him to leave behind a message. One that someone apparently wiped away, but blood must have seeped into the jar where the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we need to do is connect these points, and the victim's message will become apparent. No! Mr. Wright, what kind of message did the victim leave for us? Your Honor, I believe these bloodstains will reveal us the answer. I've got to connect these dots to make letters. There's only one thing the victim would have written given the circumstances. His murderer's name. I'm not saying this wouldn't work, but there's we literally have luminol. Like, I don't know if it would react to that, like it's a two-year-old urn. Sure, that's true, but still, one would at least expect someone to mention the notion, we have luminol, we've been doing. And write an other name. Yes, that is also what we could do. Can I? No. Okie dokie. So. So, there's the answer. I think. Unless he has a really weird way of writing Edgeworth. Take that. Just add some lines more. Yep, that would be really good. If that was possible, that's sure. It's a defense attorney's duty to prove their client's innocence. That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this. It's also a very staple thing in Ace Attorney that in so many of the crimes, the name of the the name of a suspect is written in blood in something, and it's almost never real. Maybe I don't remember this one, but it might not be real either, because in basically every case, the actual murderer or the bad person just grabs the finger on the or just write it, or maybe it might not be the accurate thing. So this is the final message Prosecutor Marshall left behind. And they never learn that, oh, it might be a fake. Of all people, she may not have meant it, but in the end, the one who took the victim's life was Emma Skye. Well, I'm still kind of like out on the fence about that, but you know, let's see how it goes. Seaworthy, can't say I didn't warn you. Hi, Gant. Chief Gant, do you understand the implications of what you've done? What? What are you talking about? 2 years ago, Joe Dark was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you were the prosecutor in the case, were you not? Ack. Yes, Worthy. Because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death. Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction. Objection! But Joe Dark really was a serial murderer, that's undeniable. I'm afraid that's not important. Didn't you know, we aren't defenders of justice. What? We're merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter. Even if there wasn't any cover-up or evidence forgery, ultimately the responsibility falls on the prosecutor in charge. Despite what anyone may say, this fact cannot be denied. What's going on at the prosecutor's office? They might have sent an innocent man to his death. How can he just stand there like it wasn't his fault? Order, 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 order! The gavel's pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to settle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is headed, no one knows. It's headed to forward. We're gonna keep going. Save in between and just go. There we go. Final day trial latter. Here we go. February 25th, 12:06, District Court, Defendant Lobby Number 2. Sorry, Edgeworth. I didn't mean to get you in trouble. Don't worry about it. This is my problem, not yours. I hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later. Bye! Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You've got a lot of nerve, pal, making a detective run all around while on duty. And to top it off, you call me here. I've seen happier people at funerals. I take it Lana's having you run errands again. Let me tell you, this is the last time, pal. Here, she asked me to give this to you if there was a break in today's trial. Evidence law. With a picture of a yellow bird with, like, a Sherlock Holmes hat and a pipe. Cool. Evidence law. Edgeworth was talking about this just the other day. You must know the 2 rules of evidence law. Rule 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. Is that right? It seems so. You could at least study some evidence law, really. The chief prosecutor also wanted me to give you a message. A message? It's Inspector Duck, never seen Gravity Falls. Fair enough. She said, if you're planning to take him on, you're going to need this book. Him. I guess I'll need to give this book a thorough read. Evidence law security slips. From Miss Skye explains the true rules of evidence law. Doesn't look like that'll book do any good now, though. Give us a quick read of it. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. Rule 2. Unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. Cool. All that's left now is the chief prosecutor's sentence. That's where you're wrong, detective. Haven't you figured it out yet? Why I'm still sitting in that prosecutor's seat, despite all these allegations being thrown at me. Mr. Edgeworth, the real trial today hasn't begun yet. What? What else is left to do? Your credibility's been all but ruined with this forged evidence you were unaware of. Emma Skye found out she unwittingly caused a man's death, and now you're telling me you want to do more. You've got to be kidding me, pal. You're missing the point, Detective. Lana didn't murder Detective Goodman. She merely stuck a knife into his dead body. That means the real killer is still out there. What? And we're going to expose him, no matter what it takes. This case has hurt too many people. It's time to bring it to an end. Let's do an entire good. February 25th, 1252, District Court, Courtroom number 9. Court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. Mr. Edgeworth. Yes, Your Honor. The Inquiry Committee is planning to impose harsh penalties for your actions. Thank you for the news, Your Honor. Yes, well, normally this is where the prosecution calls for a witness. But this isn't exactly to say, this isn't easy to say. You see, there is some concern that you, Mr. Edgeworth, may have struck a bargain. You think I may have manipulated the witnesses. I didn't say that. It's just, you see, everyone has been talking and... Very well, Your Honor. I have a solution. A solution? That being the case, the prosecution will allow the defense to call forth all further witnesses. What? But there's no precedent for what you're proposing. Right, the defense can't call witnesses before. Undeniably, this is an unusual arrangement, but a very effective one. It would prove that I haven't struck any deals with the witnesses. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you say? Unbelievable. Edgeworth has found a way to continue the trial. Very well. The defense accepts the prosecution's proposal. Then it's settled. The defense may now call forth the next witness. Mr. Wright. You do realize this is your last chance. If you call the wrong witness, this trial is as good as over. The defense calls... Okie dokie. Let's just make a quick... we can't... I don't think we can call Gant yet, because we don't really have anything to tied to this thing yet. So... The time has finally come to... Oh! Blue Badger, yeah, I would love that. Oh, the real murderer. Oh, well, if Phoenix says it's come to bring the real murderer, then it's got to be Gant. Like, who else? Because he is the murderer, so... Take that! Damon Gant. The defense calls Damon Gant to the stand. Damon Gant? What does he have to do with anything? Well, he's asking everyone to go swimming, and it's really obnoxious. So that's a crime in the Ace Attorney Landia. Yes. As the defendant's partner 2 years ago, Mr. Gant has first-hand knowledge of the crime. I feel we should hear what he has to say about it. As luck would have it, he should still be in the courthouse. He would also be the least likely to have been manipulated by me in any way. Wouldn't you agree, Your Honor? True. All right, bailiff, please escort Mr. Gant to the stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation. What is this, some kind of practical joke? I was just on my way out to lunch. Your name and occupation, sir. Worthy, are you sure you want to do this? Your name and occupation. So, you want to play hardball, eh? Please, Mr. Gant. Fine. My name is Damon Gant. I'm the acting chief of police. Now then, Chief Gant, the court requests to hear your testimony. When you say acting chief of police, are we talking like dramas, comedies? No, because acting. Oh right, so what's with the grim face? First, let's clear up this SL9 incident. Oh, you mean that time when Lana's sister murdered that prosecutor? Personally, I think it's been made pretty clear already. There are still some things unaccounted for. Oh, like what? Like the role you played in all of this. Son, either you're very brave or very foolish. You are aware, of course, that a police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal. Weapons? Sure. Take my testimony, for example. I don't have to give it if I don't want to. He can know that Emma did it if, because we already, like the court we are in is a public court. So there was no reason to say that he wouldn't be in the room. Because he did appear in the stand. He did. Like, he appeared in the stand right after, saying to Edgeworth, "Don't tell me I didn't warn you, and now you've proven that this was killed by this one, and an innocent man was sent to die." He literally heard it right then and there, so he would know. Goodbye or not, but he literally, immediately after Emma was, like, said to be the murderer, he literally appeared in that instant on the stand there to say to Edgeworth, "Don't tell me I didn't warn you," and stuff and stuff and stuff, and now you've proven this girl guilty. So, like, he could have just said goodbye as like a figure of speech of, "I'm not going to see you again," or "I'm not going to be on the stand again," but he was mistaken with that. Is just a point. So I'm afraid so. The chief of police has the right to refuse to testify. Of course, such an action carries with it certain risks. Don't worry, I'm not here to hinder your trial. Just remember, if this turns out to be a big waste of time, don't say I didn't warn you. Very well, the witness may now begin his testimony. The SL9 incident. And don't worry, I oftentimes as well, I sometimes think something is a plot hole and then it isn't. And so, but like there are some inconsistencies somewhere, but for the grand majority, the storytelling itself is really good in these games. It just, sometimes I find it like, can't we just like progress the story a little easier than just like think of to show the fingerprint powder to Gumshoe, like, ugh. As I recall, Neil and I were questioning him that day. To make a long story short, we slipped up. That power outage didn't help either. When I went to my office, I found Lana there. Apparently she had already arranged the crime scene. As you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery. Is that when Dark was arrested? Him? He was lying on the floor unconscious. When Emma sent Neil flying, it seems Dark bumped his head. I see, everything seems pretty clear-cut. If the police chief has the right to refuse to testify, then I'd better hit him hard and fast. Okay, so let's start pushing on stuff. Hold it! As I recall, a ceremony was held at the police department that day. Yes, that's right, I guess you could say I'm a workaholic. After winning his award, Neil was all fired up too. That's probably what spooked Dark and made him run away like that. Was the defendant Lana Skye also present in the room? I don't quite remember. At the very least, she wasn't there when Dark ran for it. Long story short, slipped up, that power outage didn't help. Hold it! So the two of you ran immediately after him, right? That's right, but Dark made it to the elevator first, so Neil and I split up. He went upstairs and I went downstairs, guess you could say he got quote-unquote lucky. What's this about a power-up outage? Oh, that. The elevator stopped all of a sudden and I got the shock of my life. Well, probably not as shocked as Neil as was when that knife went into his heart, though. That's not funny. When I went into my office, I found Lana there. Hold it! Could you tell us what you saw? It was a shocking sight. Neil and that serial killer were lying in a heap on the floor and all tangled together. Dark was also lying collapsed on the floor. Yes, apparently he hit his head and was knocked out. Next to them were those two poor girls, Lana and Emma. Lana was cradling Emma in her arms. Looking back at it now, she must have already known what your sister had done. Apparently she had already arranged the crime scene. Hold it! How can you know that? Because of the victim's body. It had already been moved. So that means you found the body near Lana's desk. That's right. I think you said earlier it was my suit of armor that really stabbed the prosecutor. Yes. Anyway, as you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery. Hold it! So you're saying that the forgery had already taken place by the time you arrived at your office. That's exactly what I'm saying. I can understand how Lana must have felt, but moving a body and hiding evidence are inexcusable no matter what the circumstances. Is that how it really went down? Staring at the witness won't do you any good, Mr. Wright. If you're going to stare at anything, you're better off staring at the court record. Worthy, always the smooth talker. But which piece of evidence ties Gant to the forgery? Lana did admit to forging evidence, but that can't be the whole truth. Somehow I've got to link Gant to the incident. Okie dokie, let's start reading the court record then, because I super don't remember the answer to this one, and I will only check a walkthrough if I absolutely have to, and I don't feel like I need to, because if it comes down to it, I can just like check everything. The thing is, I'm not sure I can use this yet, because we haven't yet proven like how it fits into the whole thing. So this is like the one thing I'm thinking of, but we haven't proven how it fits to, like, it has Emma's prints, yes, but how is the piece of cloth itself? We haven't proven how it fits into the picture. Like, I believe I know what it is, but I haven't proven it to what we're doing here. Oh, this one. Half of this was found in Gant's desk. Yeah. That's gotta be it. That's gotta be it. Objection! You claim you had nothing to do with the forgery, but I'm afraid that is a claim you cannot back up. Explain yourself. Several pieces of evidence were found in your office. Take this list, for example. That's the list Emma Skye drew her picture on. This was discovered in your desk. Not only that, but a piece of this jar that was sitting in your office was found inside your safe. It was found where? You see, Chief Gant, these articles of evidence uncovered in your office are both concrete proof that you also played a part in the illegal investigation. Chief Gant, what's the meaning of this? Ho! Here's a defense attorney who may even rival Worthy. So you admit to it then? That you were involved in the forgery. Who, me? Or do you mean you? Me? Why do I have anything to do with that? Well, you were the one who snuck into my office when you found this evidence. Prosecutors aren't the only ones capable of forging evidence, you know. Defense attorneys can do so too. Isn't that right, Righto? Objection! However, Detective Gumshoe was present during the investigation. Worthy, my boy. Not even detectives are exempt from the law. Rest assured, Dick will receive his due punishment. What? If Detective Gumshoe's salary drops any further, he'll end up paying to work. Yes, well, in light of the detective's presence, please give us your testimony regarding these pieces of evidence found in your office, and the relation to the forgery that took place at the crime scene. My. Kids these days no longer know how to put two and two together. Let's see, what was it now? A jar fragment and a list. For all I know, you could have planted them in my office. Anyway, you can't prove when those pieces of evidence were discovered. If they were found after Dark was convicted, then they're worthless. There's no reason I'd participate in a forgery. Rearranging the crime scene wouldn't help me out in any way. Mr. Wright. Yes, Your Honor. When investigating the crime scene, you should have been more careful to observe protocol. You do understand that I am the Chief of Police, right? There will be consequences. Oof. Indeed, I believe I will press charges so you won't make the same mistake again. My apologies, Chief, but would you mind waiting until tomorrow for that? Today is, well, you know. Alright, Ajay, in return though. I know, that place, right? Huh? What are these guys, telepathic? Evidence and forgery. Okay, for all I know, and press. Hold it! I'd appreciate it if you'd stop making these ridiculous allegations. Yes, you do have a point. You wouldn't have the guts to do something like that. What? I'll have you know, back in the day I once broke into a cattle ranch and tipped... Mr. Wright, what are you saying? Anyway, you can't prove you didn't carry the evidence, can you? If you have proof to the contrary, you're going to need it later. Later? What are you talking about? What else? I'm talking about when Righto's prints are found. Yes, if they're found inside my safe, then they would prove his investigation was illegal. I never faced anyone as slimy as this guy. Well, there was one karma, I'd argue. Anyway, you can't prove when those pieces of evidence were discovered. Hold it! What do you mean by that? This is all purely hypothetical, of course. But suppose I did place those items in my safe. Such an act wouldn't necessarily constitute forgery. Objection! If concealing evidence found at a crime scene isn't forgery, I'm not through speaking yet, Righto. It all depends on when the evidence was discovered. If they were found after Doug was convicted, then they're worthless. Hold it! Are you saying this jar fragment wasn't discovered in the initial investigation? It would appear not. After all, it wasn't listed in the evidence list. For all we know, it could have suddenly materialized the day after Dark was sentenced. No, because Emma drew the picture on the entire thing, so if they're in the other part of the list, then they count. Objection. Oh, and wouldn't that be convenient, right? The Chief is talking about a possibility, so long as you can't rule that out. Your remarks, however clever they may be, will only succeed in wasting time. Tell me something I don't know. Come now, Righto. Think about it. There's no reason I'd participate in a forgery. Hold it! How can you look me in the eye and say that? Because I'm innocent. Remember, who was it that murdered Neil? I'm not sure I care for the word murder here, but in the end the person responsible for Mr. Marshall's unfortunate demise was Emma Skye. Well, now do you see. Rearranging the crime scene wouldn't help me out in any way. Hold it! Really, Chief Gant. At the very least, there is one very large benefit you've reaped from all this. Oh, I wasn't aware. What's this benefit? That would of course be the positive position you have, Chief of Police. Oh, the resolution of the SL9 incident secured your promotion to Chief. That in itself is sufficient motive. Ho ho ho, it's Christmas again. Oh, that's a good one. Huh? Do you really think I'm that incompetent? What do you mean? Even without that case, I was already in line to become the next chief. The resolution of the SL9 merely sped up the inevitable a little. Is that true, Edgeworth? Yes, he was going to be made chief anyway. Be careful when pointing that finger or you might wind up being the one pointed at. So that means there's only one possible motivation for you to commit forgery. If you didn't do it for yourself, then you did it for someone else. Don't be silly, Worthy, you know me better than that. There are only 3 people I look out for. Me, myself, and I. There, it's out in the open now. Udgy, would you mind if I change my testimony a little? By all means, please do. I wouldn't be anyone's accomplice if there was nothing in it for me. Hold it! Nothing in it for you. Sorry, but the only person I care about is yours truly. That girl, Lana's little sister, was it? If you think I felt sorry for her, you'd better think again. You're right. You don't feel sorry for anyone. Be tough on crime and tough on people, that's how I was raised. You seem to be lax enough on yourself, though. Ho, ho, ho. Oh, that's a good one, Worthy. Could there have been something in it for him? Given his selfishness, would he have helped someone out? So, the motive being that he could then place Lana as the chief prosecutor and have her in the pocket, so... But... would he have helped? Okay, that's a tricky question, because it's not about helping someone as such. But... pointing out an accomplice is a bit of a different thing. True, you might not help out anyone for their sake, but if it would benefit you, you might decide to assist someone. Mr. Wright, it appears you're positively determined to portray the chief as a nice man who likes to lend people a hand. That's not what I mean. Very well then. Who is this person you believe Chief Gant may have helped forge evidence? Well, that would be Lana. Here we go. Take that. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. The defendant? I believe it's quite obvious in light of the circumstances. Emma Skye fell victim to an unfortunate series of events. Who would want to help her more than her own sister, Lana? And as for Chief Gant, he would also have a reason to help Lana if she asked him to. That reason, of course, is self-profit. Self-profit? What do you mean? After the SL9 incident was resolved, Lana Skye was appointed Chief of Prosecutor at the prosecutor's office. The person who arranged this job change was you, Chief Gant. That is true. But how would he profit from all of this? He would be able to use the Chief Prosecutor as his puppet. Essentially, he would acquire unchecked authority over all investigations. Do you mean to tell me that despite the Chief's formidable appearance, he plays with puppets? Oh wait, you must mean puppet as in someone forced to do his bidding. Never mind. Thanks, Judge. Admit it, Chief. You assisted Lana Skye in forging evidence. Your motive to appoint her as Chief Prosecutor so you could control her. Righto, my boy, you have quite an imagination. Let me ask you something. What? Do you have any proof of this, that I controlled Lana? For example, is Lana testifying that I have done such a thing? Lana. She's keeping quiet to protect Emma. There's no way she'd testify against Gant. I'm afraid without any proof, this all amounts to nothing more than mere conjecture. Unless, that is also what happened in this incident. This incident? Which one would that be? Of course I'm talking about the murder of Detective Bruce Goodman. The Chief Prosecutor has been acting strange throughout this entire trial. Almost as if someone has been controlling her. Worthy, you'd better watch your tongue. I wouldn't want you to get hurt. Just what do you mean? What he means, Your Honor, is that Chief Gant is involved in the murder of Detective Goodman. Not only that, but the Chief is now making Lana take the rap to cover up his involvement. What? Order, order, order. I said order. Mr. Wright, you can't be serious. Hmm? This is an affront to the highest ranking officer in our law enforcement agency to accuse the chief of police of blackmail and murder. That's impossible. It's a mission impossible. Your Honor, I was merely reiterating what Mr. Edgeworth said in easier to understand language. It's too late, Mr. Wright. There's no turning back for us now. It looks like he's the one who's decided to go through with this. Can you prove this, Mr. Wright? That the chief, a high-ranking officer of the law, is involved in this murder? Good question. Regardless of his rank or title, Chief Gant is just a man. The question is he a criminal? I believe the evidence will tell. I see. Alright then. Okay, this is gonna just make a quick save. Let's see what Mr. Wright's got, and it better be good. Show us this evidence that ties Chief Gant to the murder of Detective Goodman. Again, my instincts told me to save because I can't save when the evidence thing comes up. So it's kind of like, you gotta be ready to make a hard save right quick. Okie dokie. Wait, this one. Because this is the thing that made Edgeworth come back to the place, to the police department, because Gant asked him to. And he needed Edgeworth's car to move with the body inside to get the body to the underground parking garage in the prosecutor's office 30 minutes drive away. And that's the reason. Ah! Take that. Well, Chief. So long as Raito here is tossing out things regardless of their relevance, mind if I toss something too, Achi? This shoe should do nicely, I'll chuck it right at you. You always were quite the joker, weren't you? Oops, looks like I got it. Oh, come on! At the moment it's the other case. Ah, for Ah! You're right. My brain fart. It's I'm confusing myself. Sorry, mistakes were made. Oops. Let's see what Mr. Wright's got, and it better be good. Yeah. No. It's evidence that ties Chief Gant to the murder of Goodman. Goodman is the dude in white, so that didn't work. Okay. Oh, the other one. The other one would be the ID card record. There we go. There we go. It was the correct case, I just outsmarted myself again. Because I feel like the screwdriver does that too, because of the reasons I just explained. Game, I was a step ahead here. This is the ID card list. Yes, the one that shows who entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. There was one ID on the list we couldn't determine the owner of yesterday. 7777777. Sorry, but there's no way you can prove that's my card number. It's your number. What? How do you know that? The safe in Chief Gant's office requires a quote to open. Wait, are you now admitting you opened the safe though, right? Is that wise? A 7-digit code. 7-digit, you don't mean... I'm afraid so, Your Honor. The code was 7777777, and now we have admitted to going into the safe. Cool. The same as the remaining ID card number on that list. Chief Gant. You entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. Order, order. Chief Gant, what do you have to say? Nothing. The defense's search of my office was in violation of regulations. And I will demand Mr. Wright be punished to the maximum extent of the law. But right now, this court demands an explanation from you about the use of this ID card. Chief Gant, so you admit it. You entered the evidence room. on the day of the crime. What about it? I'm chief of police, whether it's the evidence room or the bathroom. What's the difference? I can go anywhere I want. Tell me, when you entered the room, were you alone? I always go to the bathroom alone, as I do with the evidence room. Detective Goodman wouldn't have happened to be with you that day, would he? Of course not, why would he be? I hadn't seen him in days. Objection! You hadn't seen him in days, Chief Gant. I'm afraid you've just undone yourself. On that day, you had to have met with Detective Goodman. What do you mean? This trial's purpose is to determine Lana Skye's guilt. Objection! No, it isn't, Your Honor. This trial's purpose is to determine the truth. If Chief Gant met the victim on the day of the crime, then we need to determine one thing. What transpired during that meeting? In that case, Mr. Wright, I'm going to have to ask you for evidence. Yeah, save the game again. Oops. There we go. Show us proof that the victim went to meet Chief Gant on the day of the crime. I'm thinking maybe the ID card sort of like lost piece of paper thing. But give us a moment. Well, it's dated 2/21, so that's like the best thing I have, because it can only be submitted to the Chief of Police. This is the best I got. I'm not sure that proves it, but that's the closest thing I can think of. Take that! Detective Goodman lost his ID card on the day of the crime. Or to be more accurate, Jake Marshall stole it. So Detective Goodman filled out a lost item report. He would have to give that report to the Chief of Police. Yet you are in possession of the report. Yeah, that's... agreed. Which means you can't be sure if he filed it. He filed it. How do I know, you ask? Because he needed to enter the evidence room that day. He needed to? Yes, to transfer the evidence out. Oh. Detective Goodman took the form to you, Chief Gant. Then... you accompanied the detective to the evidence room. I accompanied him. There's no other way the murderer and Detective Goodman could have entered the room. It's really convenient that the VHS tapes are so often erased from the evidence room. It's like, but like we just can't see the thing happening then. Hold on, let me guess what you're gonna say next. I, the Chief of Police, murdered poor Goodman. Exactly. But wait. The chief didn't necessarily need to accompany him to the evidence room. He could have just lent him his ID card. Yes. Now that you mention it, I believe I might have done something of the sort. Objection! Sorry, but that's not possible. According to the record, your card was only used once. Yet you showed us your ID card earlier. If you had really lent it to Detective Goodman, it would have been found on his body. No. That's one of the crazier sort of like breakdown well, not breakdown, but like a big like reaction animation. But yeah, Chief Gant, you didn't. The murder was most likely a spur-of-the-moment crime, for no one in their right mind would choose the police department as a place to commit murder. After the murder, you contacted Lana at the prosecutor's office. Why? To dispose of Detective Goodman's body, of course. Objection! You're forgetting, Mr. Wright, that the victim's body was discovered in the prosecutor's office parking lot. Yeah, because they put the body in the car. With your help, Edgeworth, just unknowingly. How did he manage to move it there? I was at the police department the entire day, you know. And everyone's aware that Lana stayed at the prosecutor's office after the ceremony. everyone except me, it seems. Still, you're the chief of police. You have an entire police force at your disposal. Oh, so you think I just ordered an officer to do it? Hey you, take this here dead body over to the prosecutor's office. I don't think so. Chief Gant, you left all the evidence we need to prove how you moved the body to the prosecutor's office. And all this time I thought it was a useless clue just taking up space. How could Chief Gant have moved the body? Mr. Wright, show us this evidence. To move the victim's body, Chief Gant used this. Now the screwdriver. Like, he didn't use the screwdriver to, like, move the body. He asked Miles Edgeworth to come to the police department to pick up this screwdriver from the evidence room. Before that, he had cleaned up the scene right quick. And then, he stuffed the body in Miles Edgeworth's car while Miles was doing his thing in the evidence room, and then Miles just drove back to the prosecutor's office, unknowing that the body was in the car, and then Gant had already called Lana to basically like take the blame for the murder or some such. So take that. This is how he moved Detective Goodman's body. What's that? A screwdriver? But what does that have to do with this case? Mr. Edgeworth, think back to the day of the crime. What is the screwdriver doing here? It's here because... I was asked to go by Chief Gant, no less. He told me he wanted me to keep it here in the prosecutor's office. In any case, on the day of the stabbings, I brought this back here. After the ceremony ended that day, I didn't plan to return to the prosecutor's office. But you did, because Chief Gant asked you to. You mean the body was found in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. I think it's obvious what happened. The body was moved by that car. Detective Goodman's body was carried in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. Yes, unless of course you have another explanation, Chief. Why else would you have asked Mr. Edgeworth to transport evidence from a closed case? There's only one plausible explanation. To transport the body to your accomplice, Miss Lana Skye. Order, order, order. What's going on here? Is there no room for rebuttal to the defense's outrageous accusations? Think back to the photograph Miss Starr took at the prosecutor's office. This was not a photo of the body being stuffed in the trunk to be taken away. It was exactly the opposite. It's a photo of the body being taken from the trunk. Chief Gant, please say something. I believe... Your time is up. My time's up? Sorry, Wrighto, but I'm having lunch with the District Attorney General after this. We have to get going if we're to make it in time for the early bird special. Objection! But the cross-examination isn't finished yet. Remember what I told you earlier. A police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal. Weapons. Like the right to refuse to testify. I'm invoking that right I'm invoking that right now. What? This is not a right to be casually invoked. There are certain risks to be considered. Objection! So you're going to just run away after all this. Run away? Don't make me laugh, Worthy. I stabbed old Goodman. That's what you're saying, right? But if you had any conclusive evidence, you would have presented it by now. Well, you think I had Lana dispose of the body? If so, then show your proof and get it over with. I'll say it again, Mr. Wright. Damon Gant is the current chief of police. This court will not tolerate any accusations against him without concrete proof. Well, Mr. Wright. Your Honor. Do you have any concrete proof? Proof that Chief Gant murdered Detective Goodman and made Miss Skye dispose of his body. I probably don't, but I'm going to make a save again. Do I have any concrete proof? No, not yet, I don't think. It's no use showing evidence I'm not even sure of myself. No, Your Honor. At present, I have no conclusive evidence. See, Judge? In that case, this court is forced to penalize you for your allegations against the chief. What? Here's a tip. Never gamble what you can't afford to lose, Righto. It seems that Lady Luck was on my side again today. Okay, Angie, I'll leave the rest to you. I warned you earlier, Mr. Wright. This is an affront to a senior officer in our nation's law enforcement agency. Wah! Objection! Lady Luck, Maybe we should have a word with her. Mr. Edgeworth, what do you mean? There's one lady who knows the real truth behind this trial. We haven't yet had the honor of hearing her testimony. A lady who knows the truth, another witness. In the absence of conclusive evidence, the only other method of proof is testimony. But Chief Gant has invoked his right to refuse to testify. There's still someone else, one more witness who can answer all the questions raised in this trial, someone right in this very room. Mr. Edgeworth, who is this person? Why are you asking me, Your Honor? Have you forgotten? The defense is the one calling witnesses today. That's true. Mr. Wright, does such a witness exist? She may not be willing to tell the truth, but we can't just stop now. Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls forth, Lana! Come say hi. We'll have cookies. The defendant, Miss Lana Skye, she was in the underground parking lot at 5:15 p.m. on February 21st. Her task to dispose of the victim's body in accordance with a certain someone's orders. Mr. Edgeworth, the prosecution has no objections, Your Honor. Very well, the court will now take its final recess for the day. In 15 minutes we will reconvene to hear the defendant's testimony. This court is now in Hold on. Chief Gant, I thought you were going to eat. Listen good, Lana. He's talking to Lana. I don't think you need me to tell you this, but if you accept Mr. Wright's claims, there will be terrible consequences. That's right. Your sister will be found guilty for Neil Marshall's murder. This isn't good. Of course you'd never support such outrageous claims anyway, right? Just something to think about. Alright then. I've got a lunch date to meet. Bye! Yep. He's a super chill dude. Okay, if there aren't any further objections, this court is now in recess. Well, before I'm going to eat, let me threaten you fast again. Yeah, I kind of object to the fact that the court can just like listen to a clear threat to a witness. Like, I'm pretty sure that's a crime, but oh well. February 25th, 2:04 p.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby Number 2. Looks like we managed to stay in the game. Yeah, thanks to your help, Edgeworth. That chief. He's something else, eh, pals? Detective Gumshoe. Haha, I'm not a detective anymore. Oh yeah, sorry about that. Don't worry. I've already decided where to work now. At your office? My office? Sure. I'll take the place of that top-knotted girl you used to work with. Could he mean... Maya? Still, looks like we're all out of moves now. Chief Gant's done it again. How is it he always gets the upper hand? It's not fair he has the right to refuse to testify. Settle down, Wright. Remember what the judge said. But Chief, that is not a right to be casually invoked. There are certain risks to being considered. Risks? What did he mean by that? It's simple. If the Chief refuses to testify, the opposite also holds true. You mean he forfeits his right to say anything too? Well, he came back and said, Lana, we will kill you and your sister will be guilty. Well, Lana, we will make your sister guilty if you say anything. So it's like, cool. Hi, Emma. Emma, are you okay? Yeah, when I came to, I was in the medical office. I've been listening to the trial from the gallery, so she heard everything that's been going on. Emma, I'm sorry for what I said before. No, don't be. It was the truth. You know, it's funny. I almost feel somehow relieved. Relieved? Yeah. Now I finally know what really happened. To think that all this time, my sister was being blackmailed by the terrible man. And she did it all just to protect me. Ever since her appointment as chief prosecutor, everyone who knew her said she changed. Perhaps it was easier that way for her. What do you mean? What do you think I mean? To follow Chief Gant's orders. She must have shut herself up deep inside, to force herself to do anything and everything the chief told her to do. That must be why she became so cold. It was all my fault. It's all because I murdered Mr. Marshall. I'm still not convinced that that's necessarily true, but we'll see. Hey, don't go blaming yourself now. If you want to blame anyone, blame society, pal. Chief Gant may be able to fool everyone else with his forgery, but he can't fool my memory. I remember now. I knocked Mr. Marshall into the armor. I see. Well, we'd better get back. It's time for the final act. Emma, why don't you wait to... No, I'm going with you. I want to be there. When Lana tells the truth. Let's go, Wright. It's time to end this. Oh, it's still... well, we're still going. It's gonna be the final part. We're just gonna push through like the heroes we are here. February 25th, 2:21 p.m. District Court, Courtroom number 9. Now then, will the defendant, Miss Lana Skye, please take the stand? Miss Lana Skye, you are the chief prosecutor. I'm sure you're aware of what is required of you. But Mr. Edgeworth, you already know everything. You know all that I've done these past 2 years. Please provide the court with your testimony, Miss Skye. And remember, you are under oath. We want to hear the truth. In Ace Attorney, no one is really under oath. Like when they lie on stand, no one cares, and they always lie. There's that for sure. They lie without exceptions. Well, I think there's like one exception, maybe. It's like in all of the series. Lana, no matter what happens, I'll always be your sister. Now then, your testimony, if you will. First, tell us about your relationship with Chief Gant. Everything hinges on your testimony. You're the only chance we have to get Gant. Gant and the fabrication. I worked alongside Gant for years. There's no truth to this blackmail theory. I fabricated the evidence 2 years ago all by myself. When I found Prosecutor Marshall's body, I rearranged the crime scene. My only motivation was to get Dark convicted. It had nothing to do with Emma. Are you sure about this testimony? Your Honor, I'm confessing to a capital offense. Of course I'm sure. But Lana... If this is true, then that means Chief Gant has nothing to do with this. That's what I've been telling you from the beginning. Please, Mr. Wright, you've got to help her. She's sacrificing herself because of me. But what if she's telling the truth? She's not. I know my own sister. Whenever she speaks stiffly like that, she's hiding something inside. Deep down, she's really screaming in agony. Maya Fey, you swear to tell the truth. Yes, Your Honor. So what's your name? Kevin! Exactly. That's pretty much how it goes. Like, every single word, almost every witness ever says is all bullshit, and no one ever gets any consequences for it. It's great. Like, I think in something like... I think in the third game there might be one instance where Gumshoe just tells the stuff and it's okay and it's go... Or someone just says the things, you press all of them and it's, like, true. Like, cool. But that's, like, one time in the entire series. It's like, Well, then you need to point out that her name is not Kevin. If not, they believe it. Yep, that's exactly right. There's no time to start second-guessing myself. That's exactly true. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Here it goes. Gant and the fabrication. I wonder if I can just... I want to press here, see what she says. Hold it. You say you did all this by yourself. Yes. Would you mind telling us what you found when you arrived at that? Yes, that's what I want to know. It seems I was the first person to discover the scene. The broken prosecutor award knife was stuck in the victim's body. Wait, what? But Prosecutor Marshall died from an unfortunate accident. That's only a situation you dreamed was possible. The reality is, it wasn't my sister who took the prosecutor's life. Ah, she's trying... Right. Fantasize all you want, Mr. Wright, but I'll never change this statement. You mean Prosecutor Marshall wound up being killed by Dark? Something like that. If that is so, what happened to the other murder weapon? Dark was carrying a switchblade knife. Oh! That was lying on the floor a little distance away. It was probably knocked away in the struggle. That's not how it went down. She's trying to cover up lies with more lies. All just to protect me. So, when you found the scene like this, what did you do? After all, this is what everything boils down to. Yes. And that wasn't here... Okay, let's ask. I broke off the tip of Dark's knife, planted it inside the wound, then moved the body. Hold it! You planted the tip of Dark's knife in the victim's body, and then you moved the body. But why? Why would you do that? You of all people should know, Edgeworth. You've always had a good head on your shoulders. My head isn't that bad, but maybe I ought to ask for the sake of the others. Why did you move the body? I mean, the planting is fine, but why move the body? When you showed up on the scene, where exactly was the victim's body? It was where you deduced it was, by Chief Gant's desk. But the body was found by your desk. Why did you move it there? So the reason for that is simple. Let's have the witness explain this in more detail. The reason Miss Skye moved the body. The pieces of the jar that shattered during the event threatened my plan. Why? Hold it! Pieces of the jar, you mean... Yes, that wretched jar you showed us earlier. In order to show that Dark committed the crime, I felt it would be more expedient to move the body. So... when you first found the body, the jar was already... Of course, it had been shattered to pieces. If you look at the crime scene, it would be clear right away what happened. Neil Marshall was dead and Dark lying unconscious. In other words, the jar must have been broken during the struggle. I see. What's the matter, Emma? Apparently the jar shattered at the time the crime was committed. But I have a feeling there's more to it than that. There must be a contradiction here somewhere. Anyway, I committed this fabrication completely alone. Okay, let's just, like, throw some stuff at the wall here, because... I mean, there is the back of the thing. So according to Emma's picture, the jar was still intact basically when the broken knife was about to be hit to someone. But that doesn't necessarily prove it wasn't broken like a few seconds later, so... Because I can see why she planted the tip of the knife. Now, when you know what happens, you think like, oh, it's so obvious. Like, I have finished this case over a year ago, but I'm forgetting the details of how we reached these conclusions. But like, why would there be Emma written here if it was already broken? Sure, let's try that. Okay, cool, it works. Miss Skye, I understand how you feel. You committed that crime 2 years ago to protect your sister. You mean the forgery at the scene where Neil Marshall was murdered. If that truth were to be exposed now, the past 2 years of your life will have been in vain. Even so, I am compelled to bring to everyone's attention a significant contradiction within your testimony. A contradiction in my testimony? No! You don't say. You testified, and I quote, "The pieces of the jar that shattered during the events that threatened my plan." That's right. Do you have a problem with that? It's a simple oversight, really. You see, a message was written on this jar with the victim's blood. Yes, the prosecutor must have written it in his final moments. Exactly so. And this is where the contradiction lies. In order for the victim to be able to write his message on the jar, it must not yet have been broken before he died. Aha! He couldn't have written Emma's name on the shattered jar. Order, order. Your Honor, it would appear more information is needed in regard to this jar and its bloody message. We may be missing something critical here. Something critical? Chief Prosecutor, it seems you're as in the dark as we are about the truth towards which we're headed. What? Just tell us exactly what she saw. We'll piece together the information to arrive at the truth. Very well, the witness may now continue her testimony. Because she'll tell the truth all of a sudden for some reason. It would be quite the challenge for sure. Like to know the exact pieces and then like assemble just enough pieces to then make the Emma. There we go. It would be quite something. I immediately noticed the blood traces on the jar, but it was dark in the room and I didn't have time to check it out. To be safe, I wiped away the blood. The fragments were large, so I'm sure I got them all. All I could think about was wiping them clean before they were discovered. Well, you didn't get them all, though. You mean you were the one who wiped away the message in blood? I wasn't chief prosecutor at the time. She didn't think Dark was a real murderer. That's why she tried to erase the real evidence. Very well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination. I'm gonna go with the got them all part, and then try the... I'm just gonna hit the jar with the got them all part and try that. It's hopefully what... Because that's so assertive and specific, that's probably the thing to hit on here. More of the jar. Yes. Miss Skye, I believe this jar conceals a truth even you were unaware of. What? We found the final piece of this jar in Chief Kant's safe. In the chief's safe? But how? I knew it. She really didn't know. There's something even more disturbing about that final piece. There was still blood on it. Wait, didn't she hear when we established this about Emma's name there? Why is this surprising all of a sudden? I'm confused. Or did she only know about like the parts in the cracks or something? That's odd. That she gathered every last piece and wiped the blood off them. Yes, which leaves us with only one explanation. On the night Prosecutor Marshall was murdered, you were not the first one to show up on this. Oh, right. Chief Gant got there before you. Yeah, but we still how was she not listening, like, in the last moment, like in the last part of the trial? Because but couldn't the defendant have simply missed a piece? Objection! I'm afraid that's unlikely. The pieces are too big for anyone to miss, let alone an age detective. Oh, that's indeed, yeah. Thanks for hitting that YouTube command. That may well be, but everyone makes mistakes. Even I once wasted an entire day looking for my dentures. They were in my mouth all along. Can you believe that? Objection! Objection! Oh, and Oninka, thanks for the follow. Much appreciated. Have you forgotten, Your Honor, when this witness arrived at the scene and the jar was already broken? Oh, that. There's no way a name could have been written on a shattered jar. Another person discovered the scene prior to the witness. I hope you're not implying this person was Chief Gant at the time he was looking for Dark downstairs. Besides, even if he was there first, why would he break a jar? Objection! The question is, if he did arrive there first, why did he hide that fact for 2 years? Well, Your Honor, can you answer us that? No. That's a lot of information in one fell swoop. Wait. I'm not the one on trial here. Damon Gant arrived at the crime scene prior to the witness. He proceeded to break the jar and purposely hid one of the broken pieces. Question. What is this action called? Fabrication of evidence. But why would Chief Gant do that? In light of what happened afterwards, isn't it clear? What happened afterwards? Discovering the scene, Lana Skye believed her sister Emma killed the victim. Determined to help her sister, she sought Gant's aid. Lending her his aid, Gant helped her create evidence that incriminated the Dark, sparing Emma. And therein lies the reason. The reason why Miss Skye became the Chief's puppet. No, I did it on my own. Please, sis, stop trying to protect the Chief. I can't watch you suffer anymore for my sake. No, you didn't. It wasn't you, Emma. You didn't kill anyone. I don't believe anything Mr. Wright says. Defense attorneys make up the most foul lies to defend their clients. Foul lies. Imagine that coming from my own client. I guess you do seem the type who likes to twist the truth. Thanks! Wait a minute. What if... we're still smack dab in the middle of Gant's trap? Is something wrong, Mr. Wright? Lana, maybe you're right after all. What do you mean, right? So you do tell foul lies then, Mr. Wright? Miss Skye, please testify once more. But if evidence was fabricated behind your back, then Emma's accidental killing of Prosecutor Marshall might also be a lie. But I do remember knocking over Mr. Marshall. Miss Skye, if you will. I can't. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore. This cross-examination may not change a thing. However, there is a possibility that it will if you tell the truth. Very well. I'll testify about what I really saw. Alright, the witness may testify once more for the final time. Do you want to guess it's not the final time, but we'll see how it goes, right? Actual crime scene. When I arrived, I found Mr. Marshall's body impaled on that suit of armor's sword. Emma and Dark were lying unconscious on the floor nearby. When I saw what had happened, I thought she did it. Okie dokie, I'll grab a super quick, there we go. That's why I erased all the evidence that linked her to the murder. I had Chief Gant help me remove the body from the sword and carry it. But if it all really was a fabrication, Emma might be innocent. Cool! Let's investigate the testimony. Body hurts. Unbelievable, the body was impaled on the armor's sword. You were the only one who saw that. If only you had proof. Actually, I do have proof. I gave it to Mr. Wright just this morning. What? To me? It's a picture I took of the crime scene as I encountered it. I thought it might be needed. But I don't remember receiving a picture like that. Lana must have known. See, Mr. Wright, she really does have faith in you. Very well, Mr. Wright, please present this picture. Oh, sure. Considering the only item I got from her was the book, it's gotta be in there, but... I don't remember receiving any pictures from Lana. Lana said she gave it to you this morning, right? I don't remember getting something from her then. Let's check that evidence again. There must be a picture in there somewhere. Cool. There we go. Hey, there's a picture here. Oh, goody. Oh my. This is the actual crime scene. No other detective saw the crime scene like this. Because I contacted Criminal Affairs only after I had rearranged everything. Crime scene photo from the case 2 years ago. Taken. Gasp, Mr. Wright, that piece cut out from his vest, could that be the cloth we found inside Chief Gant's safe? What's this? This is a handprint, isn't it? That cloth, it had fingerprints on it. Whose ever fingerprints those are must be the real murderer. What? But those fingerprints... They're yours, Emma. Why are your lips turning all purple, Mr. Wright? Anyway, let's get on with the cross-examination. So long as you tell the truth, we should be able to flush out the real murderer. Very well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination. Here we go. When I arrived, I found Mr. Marshall's body in Contradiction. Hold it! You're supposed to be eating lunch, go away. Come now, Aji. This is the poorest excuse for a trial I've ever seen. Chief Gant. What, now you want to make me out as the bad guy too? If so, I'd like to put in a word or two in my defense. Objection! I'm afraid it's too late for that. What? You already declined to testify. That means you forfeited your right to make statements of any sort. This must be that risk we were talking about earlier. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the sound of the noose tightening around your own neck. Ah, so what? You think I'm worried? Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't need to make any statements. What do you mean? The evidence will do all the talking for me. Even if I can't testify, I can still present evidence. That's true. Wait, you mean you still have some conclusive evidence? No, I don't. But someone does. Someone? So what's your excuse, Righto? Why have you been keeping quiet about it? You do have something to show us, right? Something that proves who knocked over Neil Marshall, causing his death. Conclusive evidence that leaves no room for doubt. Is this true, Mr. Wright? If I show that piece of evidence now, Emma's sure to be made out as the murderer. Mr. Wright, if you have any more evidence presented now, and if you try to conceal anything, you'll be the one appearing before the Board of Inquiries. What do I do now? I better think this through carefully. I can't afford to make the wrong decision. So, I think the loophole here is to present that piece of evidence. The one that shows who really killed Prosecutor Marshall. I'm not sure it shows that, as such. So, show evidence or cannot show evidence. And here's the trick, right? We have the book here that says that evidence has not been approved by the police department, and unregistered evidence presented, which it would then be, must be relevant to the case on trial. The thing is, that piece of evidence has not been proven to be relevant to the case yet. And that's the point. So, cannot. Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time. What? You lie, Chief Gant. You opened my safe. I know you took what was inside. Conclusive evidence. I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Wright, why don't you show them? We found it together. Oh, I see. It's because you know the truth, don't you? You know those fingerprints are on it. That's why you won't present it. What are you talking about, Chief Gant? Can't you figure it out? Take a good look at this picture. See the victim's vest? Notice anything odd about the chest area? It looks like the part of it's been cut out for some reason. You mean you had this in your safe? What? That means you, Chief of Police, have been concealing evidence. This is going to be the biggest scandal in the history of the police department. That, apart from, like, when in the police department there's been how many murders? Impressive, to be honest. I didn't think you had the gall, righto. Well, I can't just let you pin me up as the murderer. I'll tell you what really happened. What? You mean you admit to it? I was the first person to arrive at the crime scene that day. Didn't we just establish that he cannot give any statements? What's that? Are we just gonna forget it? Like, is everyone just like the character from Memento, where they just don't have short-term memory? They just like have their minds reset every 10 minutes. Like, oh, hi Gant, how's it going? Ugh. It then occurred to me that I could use the situation to control Lana. So you really were manipulating her? Well, I believe since there is now completely new evidence he has to write for this new part. The game hasn't said anything along those lines. So, like when Edgeworth said that, what Edgeworth said was, quote, he has forfeited his right to make any future statements, period. Not about this, but about, like, in the trial, like, to begin with. So, like, I understand that we have the need to, like, make work in our head, but that does not make sense. What they did there was like hold on here. The game isn't accurate, that's true, and sometimes just doesn't make complete sense as well. Especially this case is all over the place at points, but like a couple of different points. Like for example, like they don't really specify the thing, but in the case 4 where Edgeworth was. When Edgeworth was being accused of stuff, the death itself wasn't solved as such, I think. Or it was like... the death of Edgeworth's father was, regardless of if it was murder or involuntary manslaughter, don't care. It was still a homicide, right? And in Ace Attorney Landia, somehow homicide expires. Because the whole gist of that case is that the case, the statute of limitations in the case 4 are about to go out. I'm like, it's a homicide. I don't care if it was accidental, it was homicide. Homicide, as in a crime involving the killing of someone. Which, in the real world, that doesn't go old. That's it. There's no statute of limitations for like, you know, killings, even accidental. Like, that doesn't matter. It's like, because if the death itself is at any point proven to be a murder or anything, that's not a thing. It doesn't go old like it does in that case. I'm like, huh. And also that case hinges on the notion that everyone lost consciousness in an elevator because they ran out of oxygen in like a matter of few hours. Elevators are not airtight. They're not built airtight exactly for that reason. So it's like, So you really were manipulating her. I knew Lana. If I made it look like the blame lady with her sister, that when she saw the scene, she would ask me for my aid. So you assisted Miss Skye. I told her to arrange all the evidence. I had her plant the knife tip in the victim's body and move the body across the room. And I ended up using that evidence to get Jodar convicted. When I tampered with the crime scene, I hid 2 pieces of evidence. This was before Lana arrived at the scene, mind you. 2 pieces of evidence. You mean those items in your safe. But why? For insurance. Of course. Insurance? I was sure my plan would work, but it's always best to be prepared for the worst. I wasn't about to let anyone blame me for a murder that girl committed. You mean you were calculating that far ahead while forging the evidence? What do you take me for, a fool? I didn't make police chief by dumb luck. See this jar fragment? I hit the most legible part of Emma's name. I didn't expect Lana to go and wipe the blood of all the pieces. Objection! But if you fabricated all the evidence, what's to say you didn't fabricate the message on this jar too? Ho ho ho! Christmas is here again. Some people just don't know when to quit, do they? That's why I kept 1 more item for insurance. You mean that piece of cloth? Come on, Righto. Cough it up already. I know you have it. What are you waiting for, Mr. Wright? So you admit to it then, Chief Gant, that you were hiding the cloth cut off of the victim's vest in your safe. Yes, I admit it. I didn't want to have to do that, being chief and all. But it's a lot better than being portrayed as a murderer. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you have to say for yourself? Just a moment ago you said you didn't have any evidence you could present. Foolish move, Righto. You should have shown it then before it was too late. It's been a long battle, but the moment of truth has finally arrived. As long as I don't mess up here, victory is mine. Now I can. Because now the chief himself has made the connection to make the evidence be relevant to the case. And now I do this. Your Honor, I do have evidence to present now. Alright, then let's see this conclusive evidence. The evidence that shows who actually murdered Prosecutor Marshall. Take that. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest. Oh yes, at last you finally brought it out into the open. There's a handprint on this piece of cloth. Your Honor, the prosecution requests that be immediately sent to the lab for analysis. This handprint on the leather, there must have been a strong impact for it to be left so clearly. You mean, it could not have been forged. It must be authentic, conclusive evidence. Ho ho ho. You're as slow on the uptake as ever, Worthy. What? Think about it. Righto had all this time to present this evidence. Yet he was reluctant to do so. Why would that be? You mean you already know? You know whose fingerprints are on that. Mr. Wright, do you really know? Whoever the fingerprints belong to must be the real murderer. Whose fingerprints are they? Well, they are Emma's, I can't lie about that. Very well. I'll tell you. It should be okay now. Everything's proceeding as predicted. The person to whom these fingerprints belong to is Emma. I'd love to say Gantz or judges or just say Meekins, do you want to go to jail? It's you can get good meals there, it's fine. But they would know there's only there's only one right answer. Now I'm not going for a joke playthrough, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. Take that. Emma Skye. What? They're mine? I'm sorry, Emma. But why? Why didn't you tell me? Oh ho ho ho. You're really something, Righto. You knew this girl did it all along, and you still tried to pin the murder on me. So it's true, tragic but true. This girl really did shove Prosecutor Marshall to his death. How could you? You monster! Miss Skye, you knew those fingerprints, whose fingerprints those were all along, yet you acted like she really didn't. Miss Skye, it's not over yet. What? I said this trial isn't over yet. Ha, but I'm afraid it is over, boy. Not only this trial, but your career, too. You purposely concealed this conclusive evidence. That, my friend, is a serious offense. I'm looking forward to pressing charges after the defendant is convicted. I'll have your badge, boy. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Aren't you going to tell us how it feels? How it feels to be the one who single-handedly turned a poor little girl into a murderer. Before I do that, there's just one little thing I have to clear up. Oh, and what's that? Who really killed Prosecutor Neil Marshall? What? Chief Gant, you're absolutely right. This piece of cloth proves who the real murderer is. Who killed Neil Marshall, you ask? It was Emma Skye, wasn't it? I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, this piece of cloth contains a critical contradiction. What? A contradiction? What is this fool babbling about? I'm talking about a contradiction, one that proves who the real killer is. Mr. Wright, this piece of cloth, what could it possibly contradict? Chief Gant, your tyrannical reign ends here. Behold, the piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth. I'm gonna say... The problem is there's no blood on the cloth. Ergo, it was taken before the impalement happened. Take that. And what exactly is it supposed to be? This is the picture Miss Skye took. Take a good look at it. See where the piece of his vest was cut out? Yes, his shirt is showing underneath. It's hard to make out with all the blood on his vest, though. Exactly my point. His chest is soaked with blood. That's only natural. His lungs, no doubt, were punctured. Blood poured out of his mouth. Oh, but that piece of cloth. Wait. There's no blood on it. Arrgh! Since Emma Skye's fingerprints are on this cloth, there's no doubt that she shoved the prosecutor aside. However, Mr. Marshall was not impaled on the sword at that time. No, this is nonsense! Now then, Chief Gant, let me ask you something. Prosecutor Marshall was not impaled when he was shoved aside. No one ever turned the piece around. That's true. But the blood is supposed to be on the upper part as well, because it's... If you think about how the blood splatter has gone, there's no reason to think that it would immediately stop, even on the outside, just at that corner, because the handprint is on the side we're seeing. Ergo, the side we are seeing is the sort of the outside side of the vest. So it would make perfect sense that the blood is supposed to, or would have splattered down on top of that there as well. But it is true we never turned it around, I think, so. I don't think we even can. I'll just see to be sure. Yeah, we can too. Oh, we can! There we go. There's no blood. Now we know that as well, to be sure. Just to be sure, but yeah, it's the handprint part should still have blood because it's the outside part where the rest of the stuff was splattered into as well. But it should be on both sides, really, but especially on the outside. He most likely hit his head on the ground and was knocked out. If so, then tell me, who could it have been? Who could have arrived at the scene before Miss Lana Skye? Picked up the unconscious prosecutor and impaled him on the armorer's sword. Then, to make it look like Emma was responsible for the prosecutor's death, said person proceeded to write her name on the jar with the victim's blood. A jar that they then broke on purpose to leave behind a clue, and make Lana believe her sister did it. Remember what you admitted only moments ago, that you personally cut out this bloodless piece of the victim's vest. Ironic, isn't it? Through the very act of creating insurance, you proved that you were the actual murderer. No! It's finally all over. Objection! Heh. Oh ho ho ho, that was close, Wright. You almost had me. Sorry, but you'll have to do better than that. I refute your allegations. What do you mean you refute these allegations? You see, that piece of cloth is illegal evidence. Order, order. What nonsense is this? Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a suspect. Remember, Aji. Earlier, old Raito here concealed that piece of cloth. So then what's your excuse, Raito? You do have some conclusive evidence, don't you? Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time. Well, that's true. The defense did refuse to present evidence. At that moment, that piece of cloth ceased to be legal evidence. But that's not fair. Ho 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 ho. Did you actually think you could best me in court? It looks like the last laugh's on you, son. I'm afraid Mr. Gant's claim is legally correct. Well, Mr. Edgeworth, true. Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a person. Assuming, of course, that the evidence is indeed illegal. Well, Mr. Wright. It seems at last. The time for me to reveal my plan has finally arrived. Mr. Wright, do you admit to it? That you purposefully and illegally concealed this piece of evidence? I did not. I admit, I refused to present it at one point. Aha, so the evidence is illegal. Objection! No, it isn't, Mr. Gant. It's not that I didn't present evidence then, it's that I couldn't. What do you mean, you couldn't? There are certain procedures involved when presenting evidence. No, Aji, don't listen to his lies. He's nothing but a coward. You can't really... Objection! There is only one issue left to be resolved in this trial. Is this evidence legal or not? Very well, let us settle this once and for all. Earlier you refused to present evidence. If you can prove your conduct was not in violation of the law, then do so now. Yay, book! Eat book! Evidence law. This is my proof, Your Honor. Evidence law. What's this? I've done my homework too, Chief. Indeed, Emma Skye's fingerprints were on this piece of cloth. However, at that point in time, this was merely a piece of cloth, nothing more. What? You see, it's written right here in this book. The second rule of evidence law. Rule 1. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. I found this piece of evidence myself inside your safe. It goes without saying, I did not have approval from the police department. Rule 2. Unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. And here is the crux of the matter. You see, at the time it was impossible for me to prove the relevance between the cloth and the SL9 incident. What? What kind of nonsense is this? You want relevancy? Just take one look at this picture and... Objection! Sorry, but can you recall, when was that picture presented? That was shown only a few moments ago. No. He's right. At the beginning of today's trial, that piece of cloth was still meaningless. The person who gave it value as evidence was you, Damon Gant. You yourself confessed to a certain truth. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest. Oh yes. No! It was then that you approved this cloth as conclusive evidence. Yes, you, the Chief of Police, personally approved this cloth. The only person who could have cut this from the victim's vest is the one who stood before Prosecutor Marshall in his final moments. In other words, the real murderer, and there's only one person who that could be. Damon Gant. The killer was you. Ha 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 ha. I knew I should have gotten rid of him. That good-for-nothing scum. For 2 years he's been snooping around the department trying to get something on me. Crimes are being committed every day, yet he insisted on hounding me. Well, your crime wasn't exactly petty. He wanted to reinvestigate the case. He recruited Angel Starr, then convinced Bruce Goodman. Detective Goodman? Yeah, that's right. If the evidence is transferred, I'll lose my only chance to find out the truth. Please, you've got to help me. Goodman turned him down, as he ought to. Still, Jake Marshall didn't know when to quit. He stole Goodman's ID card and tried to take the evidence. Goodman came to me that day. He wanted to file a lost item report. I went with him to the evidence room. Then all of a sudden he decided to speak out. What are you talking about, Goodman? Can you please reopen the investigation, Chief? We can't transfer the evidence out. There are too many questions left unanswered. He opened his evidence locker, and as he was taking the evidence out, he said, "It's not too late. I'm going to hand all this over to Marshall." Well, to be honest, I was a bit taken aback by his words. I had a bad feeling when he came to see me, but I never thought he'd bring up SL9. That's when I saw it, that accursed knife. I couldn't just pull it out. Doing so would have only led to more blood, making it near impossible to hide your crime. Even so, the blood was just pouring out. I didn't know who might stumble in, so I hurried to wipe it up. I was worrying so much about the floor, I didn't realize my fatal mistake. The bloody handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker. I used to be known as the crime computer. But everyone has to start somewhere, I guess. I was too nervous. I had no business doing any of it. Then you put the body in my car. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of any other way to move the body. I broke your trunk, but what's the big deal? You make a lot more than us detectives ever will. Arrgh. Leaving the prosecution's car aside. How? How could you get Miss Skye involved in all of this? Well, she has had as much to lose as I did if the truth came out. So you took the evidence from Detective Goodman's locker. I felt bad for having to do it. I also didn't have the time to pick and choose what to take. So, you left the jar fragments and the glove. Yeah. It looks like I was better off being an investigator of crimes than a committer. They all did their best to get in my way. I've got to hand it to them. They do their jobs well, much to my dismay. Fake evidence doesn't hold up very well upon close examination. You must have known that. Tell me, Worthy, why do you stand in court? Me? You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day, you'll understand. Oh, believe me, you will. Gotta go. Hey, have a good one, and thanks for stopping by, and thanks for the follow, and thanks for chatting, and all that good stuff. Have an excellent rest of your day, and I'll hopefully see you again, and all that good stuff, and take it easy, and good stuff, and positive things, yes. And have an excellent one, yes. Oh boy. You'll see what it really takes to bring them down once you try to go it alone. You too. Thanks. Thanks, Oniga. And indeed, has been a fun stream to have a chat with, for sure. Well, looks like it's time to say goodbye. Oh, Aji. What? Looks like we'll have to cancel that lunch date. Sorry, old friend. I'm sorry too, Damon Gant. I knew you as you used to be long ago. You were once a fine investigator and an example to others on the force. I'm sorry to learn that you are no longer that person. Those days are gone now, Aji. Thanks for all the memories, though. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Now you have Wright here, and Worthy. With these two around, you can't go wrong. In fact, I can hear them already. The melodious sounds of a new beginning. There are two things I want you to understand. Yes. First, your sister never hurt anyone. Second, Damon Gant betrayed you from the beginning. You see, Miss Skye, you no longer have any reason to keep silent. You're right. When this trial is over, I'll tell everything. All that I've done these past 2 years, from the time I had Gant help me forge evidence up until today. So, it seems all the questions raised in this trial have been answered. I'm sorry, Miss Skye, I couldn't get you out of all your trouble. My, what a high standards you have for a rookie. I can see why Mia thought so highly of you. Who knows, a few years from now, you just might make it to the top. Yeah, you smile. I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. Miss Skye. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. Believe me, I know how much of an ordeal it's been for you. It was nothing. Liar. I was worried the pressure might break you, and yet, you rose above it all, and guided Mr. Wright to victory. You've done well, Mr. Edgeworth. Stop it, I only did my job. In light of this case, It seems a good self-examining is in order for all of us. Miss Skye. Yes, Your Honor. You are innocent of murder, however. Although the chief blackmailed you, the fact is you still acted as his accomplice. A trial will be scheduled for these crimes at a later date. Yes, I understand, Your Honor. Is there something amusing about all of this? Why are you smiling? It's been a long time, Your Honor. A long time since I've felt free of these heavy chains. Well, this trial has gone on far too long already. Regarding the charge of murder, this court finds the defendant, Miss Lana Skye, not guilty. Woo! Party! That is all. This court is adjourned. February 25th, 5:03 p.m. District Court Defendant Lobby Number 2. At long last, it's finally over. Emma? Why the long face? I'm sorry your sister didn't get completely off the hook, but at least she wasn't convicted for a murder she didn't commit. No, that's not it. Just now, after the trial ended. I can see why Mia Fey thought so highly of you. I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. You've done well. You know, I did my best too. But Lana didn't say a single word to me. Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later. Bye. Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Making a detective run all around while on duty, and on top of it off, you call me here. I've seen happier people at funerals. Hey, lighten up, pals. I'm only kidding. Oh, are you here because of my sister again? Nope, not this time. I came today because of you, pal. Me? That's right. I thought you'd like to see someone. Lana! Should you be doing this? She's still under arrest, you know. Well, I won't tell you if you won't. Emma, I owe you an apology. It's okay, sis. Don't worry about it. That day, 2 years ago. Did I catch it? Yes. I wanted the full picture of that. It was all I could do to keep myself from screaming. All I could think about was keeping you from getting wrapped up in that mess. Sis. I asked Gant to help me cover up the truth. I thought I was doing it for your sake, but now I realize I was wrong. I changed after that day. I had to. It was the only way I could make it through the past 2 years. I knew how much I was hurting you by distancing myself, but I couldn't bring myself to tell you what I did. I was scared. Scared that you'd look at me with those eyes of yours. I was scared of how you'd react if you knew. But sis, you were only doing it for me. No. Huh? I turned my back on you that day. In hiding what I believed to be the truth, I was deceiving you. Sis. I'm such a fool. It took me all this time to realize it. Emma, I'm so sorry. But sis, you don't have to apologize. I'm happy now. You're happy? Of course. You know, sis, I always knew that one day you'd come back. And now you have. Oh, Emma. Emma. No one can change the past. The only thing we can do is strive to make up for our mistakes. Why must we make up for our mistakes, you ask? Because in so doing, we can find the way back to our rightful path, and it is from there that we can move on toward a brighter future. At least that's what I felt, watching the two sisters make up. Mr. Wright, Mr. Gumshoe. Me? Thank you both for all that you've done. I'm sure we'll meet again someday. Isn't that right, Edgeworth? Edgeworth? Stop hiding and come over here. Hi! Where was he hiding? I just came to say congratulations. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Edgeworth. Right. Well, I'll be going now. Mr. Edgeworth, I hope you don't blame yourself for what happened. We were the ones who acted corruptly, not you. It's too late for me. No matter what anyone may say, I realize today that I can't correct my mistakes. Mr. Edgeworth! Not only that, but I don't even trust myself anymore. Chief Gant was right. You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day you'll understand. Oh, believe me, you will. You're just one man. You'll see what it really takes to bring them down once you try to go it alone. I do despise criminals. I plan to dedicate my entire life to fighting them. But in order to fight crime on my own, I'd need a weapon. It's scary, but I've known that to be true for quite some time now. But Edgeworth? Who knows? Given enough time, I might have tried to pull something like Chief Gant did. That thought terrifies me. That's why I can't continue on as a prosecutor. Edgeworth, don't you understand? Damon Gant and your mentor, Manfred von Karma, were both the best of the best when it came to fighting crime. But they both made the same mistake. You said in order to fight crime on my own, I'd need a weapon. That may be true, but think back to today's trial. You weren't alone. You were working together with Mr. Wright, and because of that partnership, you were able to present evidence that otherwise would have gone undiscovered. Isn't that right, Mr. Wright? Huh? What? Oh, yeah, what is this, a pop quiz? Come on, Mr. Wright, show him what Lana's talking about. Evidence, huh? Something that neither Edgeworth nor I would have been able to find on our own. It's the two pieces of the thing with the thing. That one, evidence list. Take that. That's the picture I drew. Our counterattack began with this. You had one half of the evidence list and I had the other. Apart, we wouldn't have been able to completely restore Emma's picture. That didn't just happen by chance, Mr. Edgeworth. It's time for me to go. Mr. Edgeworth! If you'll excuse me, there are still some loose ends that need wrapping up. Take care, Chief Prosecutor. Edgeworth, what will you do now? Well, whatever you do, just remember. You can let what happened kill the prosecutor in you, or you can let it help you grow. In the end, it's up to you. I know. It seems I owe you my thanks too, right? But what I face now is my problem. Edgeworth, I'll be waiting for you in court. Farewell. I'd better be going too. Okay, but I'll be by to visit soon. It seems we both have a lot to learn and catching up to do. Here, there's a little something for you. Scientific investigation. Scientific investigation! It's the first book I ever bought. Study it well. Thanks, sis, I will. And so, another case came to a close. As for the sisters, I have faith. Faith that their lives have only just begun. And as for me, I think it's time I started on a new journey of my own. A journey to rediscover myself. Well, don't go checking off just yet, pal. Huh? What is it, detective? There's just a little matter to be resolved about the chief prosecutor. You see, she isn't supposed to be out of jail like this. But I thought she said it was okay. Yeah, well, it may be okay with me, but the folks at the prison are a different story. Huh? Basically, I had to bribe a guard in order to sneak her out for 30 minutes. Believe me, it wasn't cheap either. Huh? Way to go, detective. I didn't know you had a wild side. Yeah, well, haha. You see, Mr. Wright here is the one who will be footing the bill. Huh? Huh? What, do you think I could afford it with my salary? You gotta be kidding me, pal. Huh? 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 Thank you, Mr. Wright. You're the best. Why is it I suddenly feel like I want to scream? Hey, I got an idea. Why don't we all go pay it off together? Yeah, that's a great idea. Come on, guys. Let's go. Objection! There we go. That is done. That is Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. I arranged for a friend of mine in Europe to take care of Emma. I hope she'll be pleased to study under a top coroner. As for me, this affair has pretty much ended my days at the prosecutor's office. Still, I'll manage to find my way back to the field somehow. Then I'll be able to investigate crimes together with Emma. Some epilogue dialogues or whatever. Scenes. Yikes, I thought I was a goner for a moment there. In the end, though, they overlooked my unauthorized investigation of the chief's office. If we penalized you anymore, it'll be worse than firing you. Yep, that's what they said. It just goes to show, you can't shake me off that easily. I suppose so. Oh man. Really good game. I like Ace Attorney games a lot, for a reason. Oh man. My new mission is to guard the main entrance and take care of Billy. Can you believe it? I've been demoted to a security guard. My partner's keeping an eye on the entrance for me today. I'll show them though. Someday I'm going to make a detective. Yes, sir. Then I can be just like that Dick Gumshoe. Oh dear. I'm not sure that's the best thing to go for there, but oh well. And the blue badger keeps on dancing, doesn't he? Oh goody. Aw. Oh man. That is a long case though, for sure. What is it? Can't you see I'm having me a showdown with a steak lunch partner? Miss Starr managed to sneak this in to me. She's seeing one of the guards. Well, cowboy, it looks like you did it. You even gave Bambina back her smile. Can you make sure Billy and the gang get their water? Feels good. Nicely wrapped up and a happy-ish ending for... Looks like we won't be seeing each other for a while. As a farewell gift, I put a new meal on the menu, the Wright Way lunch. The top layer tastes as bitter as defeat, but the bottom layer's as sweet as victory. Kids seem to dig the turnabout theme. It's a hot seller around exam time. Just make sure not to eat it backwards. That's a fair advice for sure. I'll never forget what that young defense lawyer said after the trial. Let's see, what was his name again? Mr. Left? Anyway, he said he's been doing something or other for how many years? Well, anyway, I've got another trial to get to, so I'd better be... Huh? Oh no, I forgot my gavel. Sorry, gotta go. Yep, that's the judge for us. For sure. And I always appreciate an end credits sequence that's something else than just like you know, a list of names and nothing else, you know. A bit of an epilogue thing in between, I appreciate it. Oh, hi Maya. Nothing suits the soul like fresh country air. Still, sometimes I do miss hearing you and your objection. Still, I can't go back until I'm a full-fledged spirit medium. Mystic Maya, afternoon training's about to begin. Coming. Well, see you around, Nick. Okie dokie. I think we're getting closer to the end here of the credits for sure. But yeah, like beyond a couple of like progression like issues of like showing a specific thing to a person like that doesn't make a whole bunch of sense or doesn't feel intuitive. Beyond that, this is very good. And you know, logic here and there is a little iffy, but Mr. Edgeworth, Mr. Edgeworth, I brought you your tea. What's going on? There's a letter. I think the letter says something like, the prosecutor Edgeworth chooses death, is what says there. I think it's sort of like, you know, told or implied. Thanks for coming to see me off. I can't believe I'm going to Europe. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Thank you so much for everything. I'm a little sad, but I'll be alright. Whenever I want to see Lana, all I have to do is open this book. Oh! There's a picture in there, isn't it? Or something. Yep. Aw. That's cute. Capcom. There we go. And that is Rise from the Ashes achievement done. Clear episode 5 of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. That is that. There we go. That is the game done. The first game. And I think that's probably all I'll be doing, because this is the one I really wanted to do. Because especially, like, I enjoy the second game too, but it's in my opinion in many ways a step down and would be more of a tedious thing to go through in a couple of spots. So this is like the third one is really good though. Again, the second one is also good, just a step down a bit. But if you're watching this on YouTube, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you liked the finale. And if you have, please do drop a like or a comment, or even subscribe or share if you want to, because it would really, really help. And thank you so much for watching, and join me here live on Twitch, because it's fun to see me do this live and chat with me and all that good stuff, I hope. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you again next time in the next game.